The meeting is now being recorded, just so everyone knows, and being live streamed on YouTube. So watch what you say.
Trying to pull up my agenda here. There we go. All right, so call the meeting to order and ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the October 21, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Corey. Second by
Dave.
Thanks, Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Before we go further, I'm going to just do a roll call by agency here, make sure we know who.
And I
we
think,
have voting.
I'm just going to interrupt you here. So as we go through our motions and voting, I'm only going to ask for opposition.
Yep. And if someone does have an opposition, what we'll do is we'll go then I'll go through and I'll do a roll call by everyone so they can go on the record as voting.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board,
I'm here.
CMYRTA, we have Brian.
I'm here.
Office of the Mayor,
Present.
Empire State Development, Center State CEO,
Here.
New York State DEC,
Here.
New York State DOT,
Present.
Thruway Authority, I believe not here. I thought I saw them join. My bad. Office of the County Executive, so which is often Marty Voss or Odine Dyer. Neither. Okay. Onondaga County Legislature, Onondaga County Planning Board, Dan Kwasnowski. Syracuse Planning Commission.
I'm here.
Okay. So we have some non-voting members present. Federal Highway,
Present.
Federal Transit,
Here.
anyone here from Madison County or Oswego County? Any representatives of the Onondaga Nation? I believe Mr. Rowley has joined from the county legislature. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Welcome, sir. All right. All right. So that's we're all set, and agenda's yours. Sorry?
Question for you. Syracuse Common Council, Jen Schultz here for President Hudson. Am I part of the voting or not voting?
Yes, yep. As her designee, you are the voting member from Common Council.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
we want your vote, Jen.
Did I skip you over in the roll call, Jen? I'm sorry.
You did. That's okay. You're trying
That's
to keep the new girl on her toes.
No,
I got
I'm
it.
sorry. That's my bad. I apologize.
No worries. Thanks.
They don't know you like I do, and you're not afraid to speak up.
Somebody's got to do it.
That's right. All
So the
right.
agenda is yours, sir.
Thank you. I'm trying to, not used to using just one screen here, so hang on one second. All right, so we're going on to the 21-22 UPWP status report. Jim, take it away.
Yep. In terms of the status report, rather than go through and read all that, since there's later on the agenda, there is a summary of the year in review as well as the proposed next year's work program. So we're just kind of hold it all for that, unless there's a specific project anyone would like to have an update on right now that we're on the books. Otherwise, I'll just kind of, in the interest of getting the meeting done, I'll hold it all, reading all that until I do the UPWP project later on.
Okay. Update on the I-81 viaduct.
Yep, I think
Okay.
Mr. Frechette is here from New York State DOT. Mark, the floor is yours.
Alrighty, good morning, everybody. Last time Policy Committee got together was in October, I think it was October 21st.
Oh,
And
Mark, I gotta tell you, this is the first time I think that we've actually seen you on one of these meetings.
oh, really?
So I'm glad New York State's getting up into the 21st century technology.
Yeah, a lot of our computers don't have cameras, but fortunately mine does. You threw me off there, Brian. So we were closing the comment period around the middle of October. I think it was October 14th or 15th. And I think at that point in time, we didn't have a full understanding of the breadth and nature of comments that we had received for the project. But in total, we ended up getting over 7,500 comments. And really just in comparison to the preliminary DEIS that we released in April of 2019. Sorry about that. April of 2019, we had about 1,200 comments at that point in time. So a lot of people spoke out, and we heard a lot of very good comments from the community. I'm just going to cover a few. We could talk hours about what came in, but I'm just going to talk about, highlight a few of them. We still get a lot of comments on jobs and jobs initiative, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'll give you a little update as to where DOT is related to that. But this round of comments, there was quite a bit of conversation about construction. And DOT believes that's a really good thing, that people are starting to transition to what the construction will be about. So things like protecting the environment, air quality control measures, dust control, how are we going to dispose of hazardous waste, noise barriers, where are we going to put noise barriers, things like social justice, environmental justice, vibration monitoring. We heard from the hospitals, we've got to be very sensitive when we're removing the viaduct near the hospitals. So a lot on construction practices and techniques. We did hear a lot about the roundabout at MLK. We realized that was a non-starter to put the roundabout so close to Dr. King Elementary School. So we're in the works of moving that. We had a lot of recommendations, both big and small. Big recommendations like the Sky Bridge or Harriet Tubman Memorial Bridge, to really small things like city submitting comments about what type of tree they'd like to have in the median and what kind of radiuses they would like to have on some of their intersections. But in all, quite impressive of what we had to go through. And it was a lot of work, let me tell you. 7,500 comments. I don't think New York State's ever seen that before in any EIS document. We did get comments on Wilson Park, streetscape enhancements, aesthetics features, art, all sorts of different things. So we're in the process of completing responses to every one of those comments. We've been working with our federal partners really since we released the DEIS, talking about the comments that are coming in and working through some of the more challenging responses. Overall, the NEPA comment process, we review all comments. And there's a lot of really good recommendations that steer the project. You've seen over the last 8 to 10 years, DOT has changed the project. We continue to change the project. We continue to do things like add work like the exit 3 work along 481. That was not part of the preliminary DEIS document. So we're taking those into consideration. This leads to some new analysis. We have to perform new analysis whenever we change the project, and relook at air quality, relook at noise analysis, relook at traffic, and those kind of things. And then, of course, we need to modify the DEIS into what's called the FEIS. When you have the magnitude of comments we have, you have to categorize them into like comments. And I can tell you that we've developed responses, and we're working with our federal partners now on securing approval such that the next steps will be to release that to the project or to the public. Comments are included within the FEIS. People who sent us in comments will be able to go find their comments and see our responses to those. Really a lot of work in just addressing what the community brought to bear as part of the public outreach we did last summer. So once complete and state and federal approvals are secured, DOT is allowed to release the FDR FEIS. It's a joint release from DOT and FHWA, which will go out for a 30-day public review. We do anticipate that to occur within the next, I would say, sometime in March or April of this year. And what that leads to is what's called the record of decision. That is really the final decision, the final document that gets put together. Now, there are some parallel processes that are going on along with NEPA. And today you're being asked to vote on one of them. It's called the Long Range Transportation Plan, which this committee adopted a couple of years ago, and it's being updated, reflective of making the I-81 project a illustrative project to a more real construction project. That coupled with the financing, the future phases, DOT had put on the program funding up through this point, but we don't have the funding in place for post the record of decision. So I'm really talking about the right-of-way acquisition. I'm talking about the final design work, the construction and inspection. So these are parallel processes that the policy committee gets involved with, needs to vote on. They're important processes in the overall development of that. When ready, Jim will reach back out to you on the financial pieces for the next phases. I think a lot of people heard the governor a couple of weeks ago at the editorial board. And of course, last year there was $800 million was included within the state budget of last year. So those are things that we're now getting to a point where in the near future, we'll want to put those into play to continue to move the project forward. One of the other exciting things, and I will say probably what dominates a lot of the comments that we get is really related to jobs and the jobs initiatives. And it's one of the things that on the 81 project, every time we go out and do public meetings, we do have a jobs table. And I think everybody that's on the phone is looking for people to work in their industry. And that's been a challenge in many ways. But one of the things that we've been working with the community on is the local hiring preference and really providing the opportunity to those seeking to work on the project. So the city of Syracuse last year initiated the Syracuse Build, and working with the Urban Jobs Task Force and other local jobs advocates began the 81 Big Jobs Table that DOT participated in. But it was tasked with discussing the opportunity for available employment and really the needs of increasing training and how a local hiring preference could be included on the project. Those early meetings led to DOT formulating a working group for the ID1 project related to the SEP 14 pilot program. This program, which allows different states to apply to FHWA for a local hiring initiative. So our group has been working for about 4 or 5 months. It's made up of DOT, our federal partners at FHWA, City of Syracuse, Urban Jobs Task Force, Legal Services of Central New York, and representation from Senator Schumer and Gillibrand's office. Over the last few months, this team's really worked on putting together the application that was submitted to FHWA to allow for local hiring preference on the project. This will really incentivize for contractors to fulfill a preference of local hiring and really support the needs to successfully meet our hiring goals. We did a peer exchange with Colorado DOT, which was very informative. They had already progressed with a hiring preference on the I-70 project in Denver. That peer exchange afforded our group the chance to hear how the goals were met and how they incentivized their contractors and really what it took to train people. We wanted to learn from their mistakes. We wanted to gain from their success. And so that engagement was very valuable to us. So the DOT work group took what we learned, and we had the Urban Jobs Task Force do some analysis on the Syracuse City School District to renovate the local schools, and to try to figure out what kind of goal we were going to set. Ultimately, we arrived at 15% local goal. So that is a pretty high goal. That's been submitted. We've been working with our federal partners. I know we have Jared and Maria on the phone here today, and they've been wonderful in helping to formulate that application. It's not approved at this point in time, but I know FHWA is very supportive of this, and across the country, there are some other states that have successfully implemented that. We're really looking forward to this project really turning the dials on the hiring side, and we think this is a good avenue for doing that. So there are some other things going on behind the scenes outside the NEPA and the job stuff, but those are the major things. And so I'm going to stop now and be happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, Mark, this is budget time, so we're meeting virtually with all of our Assembly and Senate delegation members. And one of the questions that comes up is, how is this going to affect Centro? And our response has always been that, put the roads where you want to put the roads and we'll run the buses. But they also ask about park and rides. And it's our understanding that part of the RFP for the contractors is that the contractor is going to control the park and rides and whether or not we even have them. So anything you can do to change that would be helpful. And if you want to talk about it offline, you and I can have a meeting.
Yeah.
If I'm the contractor and I'm looking at I can spend $3 million on new buses and park and rides, or I can put that in my pocket. I'm going to put it in my pocket.
Right, right. So Brian, I think the, first off, I'd love to sit down and talk about that. I think that's something that we should do. And we've gotten together with Centro numerous times to talk about some of the detailed kind of things. But well, I guess what I would say is where the park and ride needs are really going to occur is more in the phase 2 of the project, which is a few years out from really the preparatory work that we're doing. A lot of the work in the first phase is we have 2 contracts along 481 to expand 481 to do the work along exit 3, do the interchanges, but we'll maintain traffic on Interstate 481. And
Yeah,
so
I
there's
guess-
really not going.
I guess my position is that we'd rather have it be left up to NISDOT than the contractor.
Right, right. And I think that specifically the relationship with DOT and in Centro with the State Fair and all of the services that Centro provides in Syracuse, contractors work for us. We control our contractors, and
Good.
we just need to set it up that ways that make sense. And the reason I point to more phase 2 is really that's when Interstate 81 comes out of service
Mhm.
and when we're rebuilding 690, and that has more traffic impacts.
Yeah,
which
and that's,
would-
that's when you're going to have the necessity for the park and rides.
Right, right.
Okay,
A great question, Brian. Well, let's follow up on that.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
And just to follow up on that a little bit. So the phase 1 and phase 2 will see a combination of delivery methods, design build and design bid build, relative to any park and rides or any traffic management strategies, during any respective contract. Certainly for the design bid build, we'll spell out exactly what we want. For the design build, we, like you mentioned, Brian, in the RFP, we'll certainly, add what we need to add in the RFP. And then also during the evaluation process for potential design build teams, we'll evaluate their best value proposal. And part of that will be, how do they intend to manage traffic? And so that'll all be part of it. Yeah, good.
Yeah,
point.
and we're just going to need, advance notice too, because if that means us, getting additional buses, I mean, that's an 18 to 24 month process.
Yep, good point.
And we've got guys going out right now to do a pre-build for buses that are being delivered in 2024. And they're going out to the factory next month, I think.
Yep, definitely something we need to keep in mind, the lead time there for sure.
Okay, great, thank you.
Other questions for Mark? Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, it was a great update, Mark. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you.
All right, so. Apologize, guys. I'm working from home today and the dog thinks I'm here for him.
Get your priorities straight, Brian. The dog comes first.
I know, I can't get back to my agenda. Oh, there we go.
Just
All
for everyone's
right.
notice, Dan Kwasnowski has joined the call as a representative from Onondaga County Planning Board and as a voting member.
Welcome, Dan. So we have no old business. We're on to the 22-23 UPWP. Jim?
Yep, I'm gonna attempt to share my screen correctly, which is always a crapshoot.
Yeah.
Let's see if I get it right.
I'm gonna walk away for a second and let the dog out.
All right, everyone seeing my screen adequately? Okay. Mario, say something, because I need to know if it's sharing correct.
Looks good.
It's the screen here.
Thank you. All right, so the UPWP, SMTC staff developed the 2022-2023 UPWP. A letter was sent to member agencies on September 24th, acting as a call letter for projects. A draft UPWP was created, programming 100% of our funds. 2 attachments were sent out in the mailing. One was a program summary, and the other one was the operating budget. Additionally, the complete document is available on our website. I'm going to give a brief presentation of both the UPWP and in doing so, a year-end summary of the current year. Maybe. Okay. So the Unified Planning Work Program, or the UPWP, is our annual work items undertaken in support of our long-range transportation plan, and it provides a mechanism for the coordination of all planning activities from the local, state, and regional agencies in the area. Most importantly, it details the annual use of all FHWA and FTA planning funds in the Syracuse metropolitan area. I'm going to first highlight some of the significant completed tasks over the past year. City of Syracuse Safety Assessment, 2021 Public Participation Plan adoption, the Town of Skaneateles Eastern Gateway concept, the annual Bridge and Pavement Condition Management System, the LRTP amendment, which is later on the agenda, Safe Routes to School white paper on today's agenda, and the Tuscarora Road corridor study on today's agenda. All those earlier items that I mentioned were at previous policy committees voted on by this group. Other accomplishments we've made over the past year. Under public participation, we've maintained and updated our agency's website. We've published a hard copy newsletter over the past summer. We've had over 6 electronic e-newsletters that went out to over 1,200 people. And like everybody else, we're expanding our use of virtual public involvement. Related to that, we've had 4 meetings of what we call our Forum on Active Transportation, or our FOAT group. It's been very successful. Our last meeting was January 25th. We've been starting to dig into the census data from 2020. It's starting to dribble out. So we've compiled some new population, race, and housing information for the area, and a lot of that information is available on our website through our interactive map portals. For data collection and city and county traffic data counting, we've hired a new consultant in the summer of July of 21. It's our 5th year of doing comprehensive count programs for both the city and the county. New York State DOT main office is gathering and processing a large number of the counts for us as part of a larger statewide effort. And we're enhancing our internal database internally so that we can meet count requests and process that information in a more efficient manner for everybody. In relationship to GIS, or Geographic Information Systems, we've created a new interactive maps, including our work products portfolio, which is an excellent online summary of what's been done and where it occurs and what happened in those areas. If you haven't taken a look at that, I encourage you to do that through our website, as well as our EJ mapper and our ITS inventory and several others. We've continued data collection efforts for truck routes, signage, and sidewalk condition ratings, which is a very large effort, as well as intersection attributes. We've worked with the Regional Planning Board on their broadband inventory mapping. We have worked for Onondaga County. They came to us and they wanted an update of the 2016 county highway map, which we did for them back in 2016. We updated that in the last quarter of 2021. It is out at the printers right now. We're hoping for delivery today or tomorrow if all goes well. The Bridge and Pavement Condition Management System, including citywide pavement ratings. Normally, we just rate we worry about federal aid eligibility for roads, but for the city, they asked us to take over and do all of the city roads. So we rate all of the city roads. So we rate pavement conditions on behalf of the member agencies. We also analyze bridge conditions. This is our 3rd consecutive year of doing all city roads. All this information is entered into the GIS system and is available through an interactive map online. We're continuing our efforts for the city sidewalk condition ratings. So that requires extensive in-field iPad-based data collection, where we hire a bunch of summer interns that we train and literally walk the city of Syracuse streets. So far, we've covered over 350 miles of sidewalk in the city of Syracuse. We'll be continuing that again this summer. For regional planning initiatives, we assisted SOCPA with its Empire State Trail Local Economic Opportunities Plan, which is in the final phase of being done, and we're hoping to deliver to them this month. For travel demand modeling, those of you who don't know, the model is what we use to do what-if scenarios. What if this happens to the transportation system, or what if that happens to the land uses? If you want to put let's say, a chip fab site somewhere, or if you want to take an interstate down, what happens to the transportation system? We use our model to study those things as well as very minor things. A couple of studies we've used our model for this year include the Route 11 Mattydale project, the village of Manlius, we did a select link origin and destination study. We also used NPM RDS data tools for the Route 5 study in Chittenango and Route 20 in Skaneateles. The Transportation Improvement Program is critical because that's where all of our federal capital dollars are programmed. We worked on maintaining that program, updated internal databases for efficiency of use, created an end of year summary, and always worth pointing out is the percentage of funds obligated for the 2020-2021 year, which is 100%, which is what the number we always want to see. That means we did not leave any money unobligated on the table. So all opportunities to expend federal resources have been met. So that's always really good. We always hate when that number isn't 100%, because that means you have missed opportunity for investment in your community. We have a new 5-year TIP update that is underway that we'll need to adopt sometime this summer of 2022. So looking at the summary of the proposed program for next year, which will begin April 1st. Hold on, I got a new person added to our group. Odine has joined from Onondaga County DOT as a voting member on behalf of the county executive. All right, the 2022-2023 UPWP we're proposing costs a little over $2 million, $1.637 million of new FHWA and FTA planning funds. 50,000 of the planning funds are from a shared cost initiative for a NPO conference. Don't know if that's going to happen or not because of the, we had to cancel it or postpone it last time because of COVID. So we don't really know if that'll be happening or not in the coming cycle, but it's there in reserve in case the desire is to move it forward. We also have $400,000 program of state planning and research funds that are funding the Dome Special Events project, which I will talk about later on. So we have 8 major projects plus recurring efforts that are carrying over from our current program and 9 new projects that have come before us. So member agencies and municipal officials were notified of a call for planning assistance. We held virtual meetings with all potential applicants. Draft went out for 30 days and both on our website electronically as well as at the county library, and a legal notice was published. So let's take a look at what projects are continuing from last year into next year. So the joint TMC co-location, we know we have a New York State DOT traffic management center, and we know we have a City of Syracuse smaller transportation management center. Onondaga County currently does not have one. So this project is looking at what happens if we put all 3 together under one roof so that we can have leverage of efficiency and utility of having them in one site. So this is the first phase of such an examination that'll be completed in early 2022. It's been going on for over a year now. Basically, it's just a white paper that documents what are the pros, cons, and what it would take to get there. And it's the first stage of a multi-stage process before you'd actually ever do anything. Think of it as an early feasibility study, which is basically what it is. For the Dome Traffic Management and Event Strategic Plan, this is brought to us by the City of Syracuse because the question was, well, if I-81 comes down, how are we going to get into and around the Dome and University Hill area, especially for special events? So we partnered with New York State DOT, who is funding this effort with the $400,000 state planning and research money towards us to add to our budget. We have a consultant study on board. Stantec is our consultant that is doing this project for us. We've conducted numerous small group meetings and stakeholders, created case studies and a literature review, created an online public user experience, and consultant conducted on-site observations in October. They actually went to a football game and just saw how it all worked here right now currently. This project is going to have a pause. It's going to happen until the I-81 issue has complete clarity to it, because we don't want to be investing and analyzing something that may or may not manifest itself. So the contract, when the RFP went out, it was stated that that was going to be part of the deal, and that's written into the contract. So the project's going to be hitting a pause for a little bit until we have complete clarity on I-81, and then we'll restart the contract back up. It may just be a couple of months. Mattydale Route 11 corridor study, we conducted a full build assessment based on hypothetical zoning changes, as well as a travel demand model assessment of 2 road scenarios and conceptual examples of some big pictures ideas. Virtual public meeting was held on January 31st and can anticipate completion in early 2022. Also anticipate completion in early 2022 of the Manlius Village Center Pedestrian and Safety Mobility Study. We held 2 virtual SAC meetings, completed the existing conditions, and we're working on draft recommendations right now. The Village of Skaneateles pedestrian and safety and access study. We held that public session on January 18th. That document is being finalized right now and anticipate completion again in early 2022. 2 projects that were delayed are the Syracuse School Loading Zone Study and the Syracuse Safe Routes to School Study. They've been delayed due to COVID because schools have a few other things on their minds right now, and we really didn't want to be harassing them about transportation study when they're having serious issues with just operating. Syracuse residential parking permit study. We completed data collection of existing parking regulations and parking occupancy counts for the city. We have a draft white paper that's been completed and public input sessions anticipated in the coming months. This project will be completed in the first quarter of 2022. So new projects that are coming before us. From Centro, we have a survey of data gathering where we're going to gather socioeconomic data as required by FTA. It's going to be an onboard survey. They've also asked us to help some public outreach where we develop and hold summarized public outreach efforts related to community thoughts and desires for mass transit and the role of public transportation in our community. So we anticipate that being tied in with the survey in some ways, and additionally have virtual meetings in person and pop-up events. The Downtown Committee asked us to do a downtown intersection safety analysis where we examine numerous intersections throughout downtown Syracuse through a complete streets point of view. We're going to identify plausible treatments to improve safety and accessibility as well as mobility. Town of Getty's requested the West Vale Plaza revitalization. We're going to build off a concept plan that's already been developed for that area. City requested the Cold Brook Creek Trail in the city of Syracuse, where we're going to explore and document the existing use of the trail and what can be done to improve it. Similarly, the West Side Trail for the city of Syracuse, review the area along Fayette Street and further west with the possibility of a trail that uses the art park and the old railroad bridges over Getty's and Fayette Street. We're going to build off our previous complete streets study and develop conceptual plans. So jointly with the city of Syracuse, we're proposing the Community Streets Program. This is building off of the Community Streets Guide that was done in 2020. The latest effort will develop a framework for implementation of a pilot program for that. And we're looking at what's been done in Albany with the Capital Coexist program as a pilot method to model after. The Nedrow Route 11 corridor study. So we're going to end up studying Route 11 from one end of the county all the way down to the other. On behalf of SOCPA, in coordination with the town of Onondaga, to address transportation needs of area residents. So the analysis of safety, transit service, and bike and ped infrastructure. Martisco Rail to Trail evaluation. SMTC staff is looking at this to evaluate the level of interest in implementing a trail between Camillus and Marcellus and possibility of developing bikeway concepts along an abandoned rail corridor. Onondaga County put in a bunch of requests. We kind of thought, since none of them were standalone studies, we kind of put them in under a block assistance where the items include Plan Onondaga, which is their new comprehensive plan, assisting in finalizing with that. Agritourism corridor planning with what that means to actually be determined. The creation of a multi-mobility mobile app. We're going to begin feasibility and evaluation of the examination of that. And assist SOCPA with the creation of educational materials for public consumption about roundabouts, as well as assist SOCPA with potential transit-oriented development analyses. So that's all our items on our work program. Everything in white is either required or recurring, and everything that's kind of in the lighter gray or color is individual projects. So the cost for this program is a little over $1.6 million. My traditional funding is about $1.57 million. Difference is $63,000, of which is from carryover resources, which is unspent from not this year, but the previous year before. So I'm reprogramming all of that, which expends all of our funding and programs, all the requests that came in. Additionally, we have the $400,000 for the state planning and research funds for the Dome event study. It's a very large program. Programs all of our new funds, and this program all of the tasks will not be completed in the 12 months of this program. Much of them will roll over into the next year of the 23-24 program. So questions or comments on the UPWP, any of the things that came in or any of the projects currently underway? Hearing none.
Being no questions, let's move on in the agenda. The LRTP
No.
amendment.
I need a vote on that one, Brian, sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so we need a motion to, or vote to accept the proposal.
So moved.
Thank you, Corey. Second,
I'll
Second.
second.
Dave, thank you. All in favor, or actually any opposition? All right, approved.
Thank you.
LRTP amendment, Jim.
Purpose here is to have the policy committee adopt an amendment to our 2050 long-range transportation plan. The SMTC is required to update the LRTP every 5 years. The most recent update to the 2050 LRTP was adopted in September of 2020. An amendment is now proposed in response to the release of New York State DOT's EIS, or draft EIS. The proposed amendment consists of 2 elements: additional transportation system performance measures as required by federal law, as well as detailing the financial details for the proposed I-81 viaduct project. Megan Vitale will give a brief overview of this after this.
Okay, let me put this into slideshow here. Sorry, let me get my screen share up.
There we go.
Okay, are you seeing it in slideshow mode?
No, we're seeing it in working mode.
Are you seeing it in slideshow now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, very good. Okay. All right, so our LRTP was, we created an entirely new LRTP back in 2015. That was our first entirely new one since 1995, and that was the first one to incorporate performance-based planning. We did an update to that in 2020. That was our required 5-year update, added some additional performance measures, and acknowledged progress on regionally significant projects, of which I-81 is one of those regionally significant projects. So we would be required to update our long-range plan in 2025. However, since the state DOT has now requested that the I-81 viaduct projects be added to the TIP, we first need to add those to the fiscally constrained portion of the long-range transportation plan. So we are proposing an amendment to Chapter 6, which is the financial plan, and we need to then do an addendum to Chapter 4, which is the performance measures, to incorporate some performance measures that have been updated since 2020. So this amendment really consists of those 2 documents. So again, next required update would be in 2025. We are proposing this amendment in response to progress on the I-81 viaduct project. We need to move I-81 to the regionally significant projects, or it remains in the regionally significant projects. Sorry, we need to move that into the fiscally constrained portion and acknowledge those individual projects that will be part of the I-81 viaduct project. The overall purpose of the LRTP remains the same, so that has not changed. The regionally significant projects in this amendment, those are all remaining. Though, as I said, in the 2020 update, we acknowledged the progress that had been made on those since 2015. So the addendum to Chapter 4, the system performance report, includes new or updated transit safety targets that were adopted in June of 2021, as well as updated highway safety targets that were adopted in October of 2021. And then the revised Chapter 6 financial analysis includes the I-81 viaduct projects, Phase 1 and Phase 2, listed in the short and midterm projects list, additional anticipated revenue, and those projects are included in the fiscally constrained portion. So we revised the text of the illustrative projects section, which no longer references I-81 as illustrative. So this is the short-term projects list. So this just highlights the $800 million anticipated for the 5 projects listed within the I-81 viaduct project. And then in the midterm years, so 2025 to 2034, we are showing an additional 5 projects associated with the I-81 viaduct for a total of $1.1 billion. In the long-term timeframe of the long-range plan, so beyond 2035, these costs haven't changed. These were based on projections based on the midterm project costs before the addition of the I-81 projects. So in total, we're now showing $5.16 billion in future project costs, 42% of which is for highway system maintenance, 13% for transit maintenance, leaving 45% for non-maintenance projects. This shows our fiscal constraint analysis. We're fiscally constrained in every time frame of the plan, with an overall surplus of about $28 million, which is a very small percentage of the overall funding in the plan. The draft documents, the draft LRTP amendment, Chapter 4 addendum, and the revised Chapter 6 were available on our website, and we created a video presentation that was on our YouTube channel starting October 25th. Comments were accepted through November 30th, so a little over 30 days. We did a press release to local media, legal notice, an email blast, numerous Facebook posts, and mailed a hard copy letter to the environmental and transportation related agencies that we need to consult with. We received 2 comments. One was from the Port of Oswego. We did have a follow-up conversation with them, sorry. And one was just saying that one comment just said they like the things we've been doing around bike and pedestrian planning. So neither of those comments were really pertinent to the financial plan changes that are in this amendment. So next step, hopefully we get policy committee adoption today. And then our next full long range plan update would be due in September of 2025. So that's that presentation. And I was going to share, we received more recently some feedback from FHWA on the revenue source for the phase 1 I-81 projects. So I wanted to highlight an additional modification that we are proposing to the text of the amendment. So the highlighted text here just adds, so I know FHWA expressed some concern that the source that we were using for the $800 million in additional revenue was a Syracuse.com article, although that was based on a press release from the governor's office in April 2021. So we did add a citation to the fiscal year 2022 enacted budget, which provides $6.2 billion in funding for the second year of the DOT capital program. And this includes improvements to the state's roads, bridges, airports, rail facilities, ports, and other transit systems. So as you can see, that citation is in there. So hopefully that adds a little more substance to that $800 million in additional revenue that we're expecting for I-81. And we modified the text of the report slightly to incorporate that additional source. Can leave that up, or I can answer any questions about the long range plan amendment in general or about this addition.
Thank you, Megan.
Do you have any questions for Megan?
Hey, Megan, this is Maria. I just have a quick question overall, with that citation for the capital plan that you had just added. I mean, it's great that there's 6.2 billion, but I just wanted to know if there was something specific for I-81.
No, there is no line item in the budget that says I-81 with a dollar amount on it. That does not exist in the budget.
Okay, because I mean, I know FHWA will be looking to see that, anything that's in the LRTP for fiscal constraint, is reflected, well, actually anything in the FEIS is reflected in the, in the LRTP. So we just want to make sure that the information that's in there is correct.
It's the best information.
Correct. It is the best information we have.
Okay,
And we checked with several sources at the state to see if there's anything else that they can give us. There's no additional detail in the state budget beyond what we provided.
Any other questions? All right, there being none, staff is recommending that the policy committee adopt the proposed amendment to the 2050 LRTP 2020 update. I need a motion.
I'll move it.
Thanks, Dave. Second.
This is Corey, I'll second.
Thanks, Corey. Any opposition? Beautiful. All right, again, I got to get back to my agenda here. You're now on to the Safe Routes to School white paper.
Correct. Purpose here is to have the policy committee acknowledge completion of the white paper. At the request of the city of Syracuse, SMTC included a safe routes to school manual in the work program. Megan Vitelli will give a very brief presentation on this white paper.
Just have one slide here, and probably by the time I get it up, I could have been done talking. Okay, so will you see that one slide now?
Yes.
So the Safe Routes to School project, we started out, the task one was to create a white paper, doing some research into Safe Routes to School projects that have been completed already in the city and the region, and then to research some examples from other regions of public-facing Safe Routes to School guides. We have completed that. That white paper has been reviewed by the Study Advisory Committee, and we're just looking for that to be acknowledged as complete by the committees. Phase 2 of the project will continue into the next program year, although pending participation from a group within the Syracuse City School District. And this was intended to both gather data and engage a school group or a community to create a guidebook, which would then be able to be used by other schools or other community groups to create and implement Safe Routes to School projects throughout the city. So the development of the guidebook is intended to also include kind of a test case, working with one school or one community group to make sure that we're developing a process that could be replicated by other groups in the community. So that phase 2 is on hold at the moment. We do need to be able to actively engage with a school or with a community group like a PTO or neighborhood association, but we also need the school on board with that. And that has been challenging at the moment to get them to fully engage on that. So at the moment, we just wanted to.
What's the challenge, Megan?
Sorry?
What's the challenge?
Their family engagement aides in the schools are pretty busy responding to other concerns that families have at the moment to, basically COVID. So there is a family engagement aide in each building within the Syracuse City School District, but their time is occupied fully at the moment.
Okay.
I have a quick question if I could ask about the metrics for completing this study, the phase 2. I didn't see anything in the white paper about the parent vehicle drop off. I saw a lot about the walkability and bus transportation, but is that in there? And will that be reviewed?
So no, not within this study. I mean, this is specifically a safe routes to school study. So this is about students walking and potentially biking to school, but mostly walking to school. We do have, and Jim mentioned this earlier, as another project that will be continuing on into the next program year, but is similarly on hold, that is a Syracuse school loading zone study. And that is looking at, that will be looking at busing and parent pickup drop off. The idea with that being we're going to select a few schools that kind of represented typical building configurations, locations, you know, say in a neighborhood versus on a major arterial within the city, and look at the traffic patterns during pickup and drop off around that school building. That one is on hold similarly because it's been challenging to engage with the school district right now, but also because the patterns of busing and parent pickup and drop off are just not typical right now. We need to figure out what that's going to look like for the long term. You know, school schedules are not what they are right now. They're not what they will most likely be in the long term. There's just so many things to start that right now. We wouldn't be able to do data collection in a way that would be really useful yet.
Right. I just am confused as to why that component isn't in the safe routes to school, because I witnessed the children trying to cross streets where the parents are double parked and, you know, try to get to the next intersection so they can get home. So it just seems like that's a major component missing from this research. And
basically, safe routes to school is a transportation concept, and it generally including the concepts of getting from home to school primarily by foot. What you're talking about is not an invalid concept. It's just not. It just isn't what falls under what's commonly called safe routes to school. It's certainly something that can and should be looked at in terms of the school operations and safety of the children. It's just not what falls under the umbrella of what's known in the transportation planning world of safe routes to school. It's its own, that phrase has its own meaning and its own funding strategies and things associated with it. So.
And it really was intended to be the identification of a route to school. So signage, developing signage. So it wouldn't just be at the intersection, you know, right in front of the school, where I think a lot of those conflicts with parent pickup and drop off are concentrated. But this was also kind of envisioned to be progressing at the same time as the school loading zone study. So there's definitely overlap between the two, but they do also have distinct parts of their scopes as well.
Well, they kind of are progressing at the same time. They're both on hold.
Unfortunately. About that signage, Megan,
Yep.
What does that look like? Are these signs that are supposed to be read by the students as they're walking, or the teachers that are guiding them in that school bus concept that is mentioned?
Yeah, so, and I know Neil's on the phone if he wants to talk at all about what's already been done. So a couple of schools have gone through a process of identifying safe routes to school, and they did develop some signage. And yes, that was supposed to be for students to be able to identify that that is the preferred route to be taking to a particular school building. And there's some overlap in the routes as well. So one of the things that we were going to look at in this study is what should the design of those signs look like to have some consistency across the city, but also some level of uniqueness to each school building, right? So you want them to be identifiable as the safe route to school, but have something that might be unique about them as well. It's very, there's a lot of concerns in that. I know at the first few schools where that was done, parents did express some concerns about the safety of identifying a particular route to school. So it's just something that there's a lot of nuance to that.
Yeah, and this is Neil Burke with the city of Syracuse. Yeah, we did have a couple of schools included or receive Safe Routes to School signage, and that was prompted by the county health department. And it was an interesting concept, or at least a first start. And I think that informed what we're trying to do here. There was small signs of a particular color with a particular design, and once installed, I think we realized that it could have a much larger effect if there was a more standardized practice here. And so while we haven't received any negative feedback on those ones, really, we haven't received much positive feedback either. And again, that was a process led by the county, which in our opinion, if there's going to be safe routes to school in the city, we'd love to partner with the county and others. But I think starting with this study and this holistic view here of what safe routes to school can be, that's just the next step in this. And so only a couple of schools were included in that first round. Dr. Weeks was one of them. But as Megan said, there was some overlap and some serious community outreach that the county did with SCSD about 2 or 3 years ago now.
Any other questions or comments on this topic? All right, hearing none, I'm gonna, Jim, do we need a vote on this or just?
Yeah, we just vote to acknowledge completion.
Okay, so take a motion to acknowledge the completion of the report.
So moved, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. Second.
Second from Corey.
Thanks, Corey. Any opposition? All right, we're moving on. Tuscarora.
Our last item here is the Tuscarora Road Corridor Study. Purpose is to have the policy committee acknowledge the completion of this study. The corridor study was completed on behalf of the village of Chittenango and the town of Sullivan in Madison County. Mario Cullen will give a brief presentation of the study. Actually, the voiceover on the presentation was done by a previous staff member who is no longer with us, but is on here as a representative of the Regional Planning Board, so he can hear himself talk. One thing worth pointing out is that this is the first study we've done outside of Onondaga County. I mean, the SMTC area is bigger than Onondaga County, but we just generally don't get many requests for those other areas. So this is the first real planning study we've done that's outside of Onondaga County of substance. Mario.
This video will provide you with a brief introduction to the Syracuse Metropolitan Transportation Council's Tuscarora Road Corridor Study, undertaken at the request of the town of Sullivan and the village of Chittenango. In the summer of 2020, at the request of the village of Chittenango and the town of Sullivan, the SMTC kicked off a study of the Tuscarora Road Corridor. This included defining the study's scope of work, which was to explore ideas to make it safer for pedestrians and cyclists to use Tuscarora Road, to slow vehicles on Tuscarora down, and look for possible ways to make Tuscarora Road less attractive as a bypass of Route 5 through the village. This project's goals and objectives were developed in conjunction with a study advisory committee that included representatives of the village of Chittenango, the town of Sullivan, the Tuscarora Road Advisory Committee, Madison County's Planning Department, and the New York State Department of Transportation. The town of Manlius and Onondaga County was also involved. Additionally, the project team met with the Chittenango Rotary, gathered input from the community by way of an online survey, and held a virtual question and answer session via Zoom for interested community members. Tuscarora Road is a 2.2-mile, two-lane road that runs between Route 5 on the west end of the village and Route 5 on the east end of the village. Tuscarora Road is a popular route for east-west commuters who are passing through the village but wish to bypass the signalized intersections on Route 5 through the village center. There are no stop signs or traffic signals on Tuscarora Road between its two intersections with Route 5. Tuscarora Road is classified as a major collector, which means that even though it is owned by the town and village, it is eligible to receive federal highway dollars. Driving lanes on Tuscarora Road are between 10 and 11 feet wide, which is appropriate for a two-lane road in a residential area. The road's shoulders are under 4 feet wide in most locations. A section of Stone Dust Trail has been added to the south side of Tuscarora in recent years. It currently runs between Talbert and Namick Drives. Another important aspect of this facility is that the bridge over Chittenango Creek has a weight restriction, which means that most large trucks are banned from using this bridge and thus cannot use Tuscarora to bypass the village's center. In December 2020, the SMTC worked with the Village of Chittenango to circulate an online survey asking residents for input on safety on Tuscarora Road. Questions included, how often do you or someone in your household drive along Tuscarora Road? How would you rate Tuscarora's safety? And what improvements would you like to see? We received 387 responses to this survey, which helped us understand the issues that people who use the road every day have with the facility. The survey also asked respondents to rate the road's safety for bikes and pedestrians on the same 1 to 5 scale. The average rating was 1.8, indicating that most residents feel that the road is extremely unsafe for cyclists and pedestrians. Many respondents pointed to the road's relatively narrow shoulders, the lack of sidewalks, and vehicle speeds. When asked what safety issues they have noticed with Tuscarora Road, specifically for bikes and pedestrians, the road's narrow width was by far the most popular response. Tuscarora Road's shoulders range in width from 2.5 feet to 5 feet. For comfortable walking, a consistent 5-foot shoulder would be needed. However, widening the existing road is not necessarily the ideal solution, particularly given residents' concerns with speeding. Most experts agree that a narrow road can help remind drivers to obey posted speed limits. The design concepts developed for this corridor took this issue into consideration. The survey results and discussions with stakeholders, including the Chittenango Rotary, the Tuscarora Road Advisory Committee, and Study Advisory Committee members, laid the foundation for a few design ideas for the corridor. To make it easier to think about this 2-mile corridor, we split it into 3 sections: Western, Central, and Eastern. We also focused on the issues that the community flagged in its survey responses: speeds, lack of space for pedestrians and cyclists, and new designs for the Tuscarora-Bolivar Lake intersection. These concepts also include connections to major destinations in the community, such as the supermarket and pharmacy, and to the Chittenango Creek Walk Trail. West End Concept 1A proposes a trail along the south side of Tuscarora Road, extending from Route 5 to the existing trail east of Talbert Drive. This variation includes a connection along the east side of TomTom Street, connecting to the Tops Plaza parking lot entrance. An off-road connection would give cyclists and pedestrians a safe way to get to the grocery store, as well as to Route 5, which provides east-west access across the region. This concept would also include a raised crosswalk at Wheatfield Drive, with a pedestrian-activated beacon for improved safety. A raised crosswalk at this location would slow vehicles down and give pedestrians greater visibility in the crosswalk. This concept also proposes adding gateway signage to the Route 5 Tuscarora Road intersection. 2 concepts have been developed for this section, but they are very similar to one another. Both propose a pair of raised crosswalks located at Burning Hollow Drive and Namick Drive. Each crosswalk would have a pedestrian-activated flashing beacon. This kind of beacon has been shown to significantly improve pedestrian safety in crosswalks. The crosswalk at Namick Drive would connect the existing trail to a new trail on the north side of the road that would run east to Chittenango Creek. Concept 1 also proposes to replace the existing Bolivar Lake intersection with a roundabout. The one location that survey responses flagged as a safety issue more than any other was the Bolivar Road Lake Street intersection with Tuscarora. Vehicles on Bolivar and Lake have stop signs, but vehicles on Tuscarora do not. Also, this intersection sits at the bottom of a small gully, and vehicles approaching from the south, west, and east are coming down hills. Survey responses identified several safety concerns at this intersection, including the relatively fast speeds of vehicles on Tuscarora, the intersection's skew, poor visibility, and from the perspective of drivers on Tuscarora, risky behaviors by vehicles on the side streets using undersized gaps in traffic to turn or cross the road. One concept that would correct some of this intersection's issues, improve safety, and slow vehicles on Tuscarora Road down is a modern roundabout. Only one concept was developed for this section of Tuscarora Road, but it includes a number of elements worth considering either separately or as a package. One key element is to fill in the missing sidewalk section on the north side of Tuscarora, which would involve closing off the off-street parking for the businesses on the north side of the road and replacing it with on-street parking. There's also an opportunity to create a unique community gateway at the Race Street Tuscarora Road intersection where the new Creek Walk extension will cross Tuscarora Road. A raised intersection at this location would improve pedestrian safety, slow vehicles down, and draw attention to the creek walk's northern end. Another improvement for both pedestrians and drivers would be to add overhead lighting along this portion of the road. This sketch shows what this idea might look like on the far eastern end of Tuscarora Road. This concept includes a new footbridge over Chittenango Creek parallel to the existing vehicle crossing. The Race Street Manor Drive intersection is now a raised intersection, and instead of a large asphalt parking area between Manor Drive and Route 5, there's a sidewalk, on-street parking, and green space. Since it would involve changes to access and existing off-street parking, this would be a long-term plan for this section of the road. Thank you for your time. We're happy to answer any questions.
All right, do we have any questions? Okay, thanks for the presentation. I'll need a motion to acknowledge the completion of the report.
So moved. This is Corey.
All right, thanks, Corey. Second.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Dave. This has been like the Corey and Dave show. I love it.
Taking it on the road.
Any opposition? Okay, great. We're good. Get back to my agenda here. Obviously, Jim, there's no public comment section, right?
Well, for public comment, we are streaming live to YouTube. So it will, if we can hold for 1 minute, we can ask our person monitoring the YouTube station if they have any public comment that they'd like to provide. There's about a 30-second delay between here and the stream. So you have to bear with me while we let that process occur.
Yeah, we can do that.
Andrew's facilitating that.
Absolutely. I will, like you said, it's just a couple seconds delay here. I will let you know. But thanks for remembering this time, Jim. I think we're probably safe to say that we are all set. So,
all right. Wonderful.
Thanks, Andrew. And with that, we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, just to let everyone know, the next time we get together, we'll have to get together in early summer to adopt the new transportation improvement program. That is mandatory to be adopted in around the June timeframe, plus or minus a couple of weeks. Otherwise, no federal funds will be able to be expended into our community, which is not a good thing for anybody. So we'll be getting together for that. We may or may not have an issue with ID1 to move forward around that same time. That's kind of up to the state and Mark Frechette. So we'll be kind of reactive to that from the state. So we'll get together for that when Mark lets me know we need to get together. So.
And Jim, you and I should probably have a BRT discussion prior to that.
Absolutely. I'm available whenever you'd like.
All right. Thanks, Jim. All right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.